Welcome to the Starter Girlz podcast, your ultimate source of inspiration and empowerment. We're here to help women succeed in every area of their lives: career, money, relationships, and health and well-being, while celebrating the remarkable journeys of individuals from all walks of life who've achieved amazing things. Whether you're looking to supercharge your career, build financial independence, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, the Starter Girlz podcast is here to guide you. Join us as we explore the journeys of those who dare to dream big and achieve greatness. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and welcome to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so thrilled to have you. Have another fabulous guest coming on today. We're going to be so excited to hear about him. I'm going to tell you a little bit about his journey before we bring him on. So at 18, he made the bold decision to set off backpacking, seeking adventure, and admittedly an escape from the real responsibilities of life. For 7 years, the journey was exciting, but it also left him feeling lost, broke, unqualified, and battling depression. At 25, he made a major shift. He says, I checked into therapy, got into the gym, joined the university as a mature student, and then put myself through financial qualifications in order to become a private wealth manager. And so he has a unique, I think it's a unique story. Neat. I'm excited to chat with him, but before we bring him on, I do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. Okay, and with that, my guest today, Thomas Murray, a private wealth manager who helps high net worth individuals manage their finances, drawing from his transformation journey. Thomas is passionate about sharing insights on fitness, finance, and purpose. He hosts the Growth Game podcast, where he focuses on personal development, and he's preparing to release a wealth management course to make financial education accessible to all. Over the last 11 years, he's lived in 8 countries. He's passionate about fitness and personal development and has become a strong advocate for men's mental health. So welcome to the show, Tom. So excited to have you here today.
Hey, Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited to talk about your journey. So let's get things started here. I want to, I guess, maybe back it up a little bit and tell us a little bit. I kind of laid it out in the bio here, which is, if you haven't figured that out, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the show, is telling stories about people. This is why I think this is so important to lay the foundation. But I want to hear it from you, and I'm sure my audience wants to hear it from you. So tell us a little bit about what led you to where you are today, right now, at this moment.
Sure. So currently based in Malaysia, working as a private wealth manager. And what led me to here, as you say, I went backpacking, traveling at 18, and I spent 7 years avoiding responsibility and having a good time traveling around the world. And then reached a point where I call it a quarter-life crisis. But I always thought that I would have a job of certain respect and be earning a certain level of income. And then I realized at 25, the world wasn't just going to hand it to me. So I hit traveling on the head and I went back home to university. And at that point, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I just felt like I had to be doing something that was more productive. So I did that, then put myself through all the UK qualifications, the US qualifications for wealth management, and then got a job out in Malaysia. So that's what's led me out here.
That's awesome. Well, and it's interesting that you kind of, I always feel like we sort of, you said a couple things, this coming, whatever, I forgot how you referenced it. I call it the coming to Jesus moment. It's where you like hit the wall and realize that what you're doing is not working and you've got to make a major shift, right? And I think it's interesting that some people I don't think ever have those moments. I think they go through life and they never really have those moments. They look at, or maybe they do, but they don't recognize the silver lining in them. They don't embrace that moment and go, okay, maybe that's the moment that I'm being called to step up to the plate, right? They look at that, oh my gosh, I've been crushed, and then they fall apart, right? But I think for people that tend to have that I call it like fighting spirit, they look at that and go, okay, that's a situation I don't want to be in, and I don't want to be in it again. So how do I do something different? So I like that you mentioned that, because I feel like I've had several of those. I feel like I keep having those moments.
Mm.
Like some of us have to be hit on the head a few times, you know? But I love that you mentioned that. And I think it's impressive that you came back and said, now, hey, I need more education. I'm going to come back, and I'm not going to be too proud to take that in. You know what I'm saying?
100%. I think of it. Have you heard of the region beta paradox?
I haven't heard of that.
Okay, so I'll explain that one with an analogy, and I'm robbing this off someone far smarter than me, but I'm sure they won't mind me raising awareness for it. But the region beta paradox is where you're in a situation which is not quite bad enough that you need to do something about it, but not quite good enough that you should be accepting it. For example, if you live a mile away from somewhere and everything that's less than a mile you walk and everything that's more than a mile you drive, paradoxically, anything that's 1.5 miles, you will get there quicker than if it was half a mile. Okay, so it's the premise that things need to be worse for you to do something to make them better. And I think that's what it was. For a couple of years, I was in that region beta where it was okay. I'm traveling around. I'm still doing something with my life, just traveling, right? And then it had to get worse. And it reaches that point where you're then no longer in that region, that you feel like, okay, no, now I need to do something about it. So yeah, sometimes you're better off just being a little bit worse off and hitting rock bottom and bouncing back, so they say.
Yeah, and sometimes too, when you get to that bottom, then there's really nowhere else to go. So you better go up, or you're just going to stay in that purgatory, right? Like that stuck spot. So sometimes you're right. I think it's good to hit. I hate to, it's funny. I have so many people come on this show, and there have been so many stories where people have had these really like devastating moments. Like a show that I just released a week ago, the gal was diagnosed with MS at, I believe, 50. And then she became a bodybuilder and became a European master weightlifting champion, because here she got this devastating rock bottom decision. She talked about how being in the hospital, it was really I don't know, I forgot what the word she used, but it was just a very deflating experience, being in the hospital and not being able to walk and not being able to do these things that we take for granted every day. And then to take that situation, for her, that was a rock bottom moment. And then say, what am I going to do with that? Am I going to stay in that and be a victim to this disease and this circumstance? Or am I going to go and I'm going to fight this thing tooth and nail and try to do something valuable that I feel, in my life is worthy? And so, yeah, you hate to say that you have to hit the rock bottom, but I think sometimes you do have to get those moments so that you can say, okay, I'm going to rise up now. So good on you for
Yeah.
doing that.
Change happens when the discomfort that you're currently in the position you are is greater than the discomfort you'll get from going after what you want. And it definitely reached that for me. 23, it was kind of okay that I was still unemployed and unqualified. 24, less okay. By the time it was 25, I was like, okay, no, now it's, do you want to be this guy forever, or are you going to do something about it?
No, I think it's impressive. I think it's good, because there are a lot of 25-year-olds that aren't having those moments. I can assure you that one. So I think it's good when you get to that place. It's funny because I have grown kids, and they're like, my oldest is going to be 28 this month, and then I've got one that's going to be 24, and then a 20-year-old, and two are girls, and then my son's the youngest, and he's my really high achiever. Like has traveled right out of high school. He's fixing to go traveling again. He's excited, but he also works full. He's a sous chef, and he also goes to school full time. He's always kind of been that way. And then my girls have sort of kind of had to, like they went to school, took a break. One finally went back and finished. They sort of have had to find their way. But I think the thing here with all of this is that there's no set path. And I think
Mm.
that we have to carve our path. And sometimes, we come out, and we know when we come out, this is the direction we need to go. And sometimes we need to do some other things and find ourselves in that process. So I don't think there's anything wrong with this journey. I think that that's what it is. It is our journey, and that's the way that it is meant to go. And in your case, being able to do all this traveling, I mean, what an incredible experience. I just think that the life skills you gain from just being able to do that. I have a friend here. I'm in the Dallas area. I have a friend here that was telling me she's from Canada, and she said something about being really, really shy when she was growing up, and then she traveled. She went to Europe or something and traveled for like months, and she said it forced her to get out of that being shy. So and I'm like, the minute you go doing something like that, yeah, you're gonna change as a human being.
100%. You expose yourself to different cultures, you expose yourself to different social circles and dynamics, different religions. It really does change everything. And I'm a big proponent for traveling solo at least one point in your life, because I've traveled with friends and that's beautiful and special in its own ways. But when you travel by yourself, you force yourself to meet other people and integrate yourself in different groups. And definitely a lot of personal growth will come from mixing in different circles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. That's awesome. Well, let's talk about a little bit about what you're doing in the financial space, because I know this is important to you. You've got this course that you're creating. So, and I know you're passionate about that. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So maybe just what what drove you to that? Like, what is the passion behind it? Because obviously there was something there when you went into the university. Then you said you wanted to be a wealth manager. There had to, I mean, we have to love what we do, right? There's got to be that fire behind it. So I'm curious to know what inspired that action.
It's a good question. It's a bit of a story that kind of led me there rather than a single epiphany. I love the wealth management job, and even now I've moved away from my previous company that brought me out to Malaysia, but I'm still doing that and I'm just moving my clients over to a new home now. But this year I started getting some traction on social media and I gained what I would consider a large following compared to what I had before. And I had hundreds or thousands of people messaging me, asking me for, oh, you work in private wealth, like how should I do this? Where do I get started with investing? And things like that. And the problem with the financial industry is it's designed to help the rich get richer, because that's what pays our bills, right? The best business model is to only have a handful of clients, but each of them paying you 6 figures a year, and then that's you set for life, rather than have 1,000 clients that don't pay you that much, and then you're twice as busy for half the money. So I do get from a profitability standpoint why the industry is like that, but it does mean that the average person doesn't have access to it. The people who need financial guidance the most don't have it and they can't afford it. So for me, this was a way of, when people message me asking for help, I don't tell them I can't help them and leave them go empty-handed. I can refer them to this, which will answer all their questions and getting started and getting them on the right track to be able to afford a wealth manager in the future if they need one, or bestow them with the skills to do it themselves if they choose to do that long term as well.
Awesome. Did we lose you there for a second? We're
I,
frozen.
I'm still here.
There we go. Okay. It
You
went
got me?
frozen. Well, we can fix this if we have to. we could splice it.
Sure.
It just froze for a second. No, this is great. And I'm with you on that. And yes, and I looked at your social media. And so I'm like, wow, yes, you did. You've amassed some people there. I think it's always interesting when social media accounts, and I'm assuming this happened very quickly for you. Was it like like it grew like fast all of a sudden?
It was, yeah. I went from 200 followers to 10,000 in the space of a week, and then to 20,000 the next week. And it's slowed down now because I've kind of moved away from the content that got me there in the first
Yeah.
place. But yeah, I've pivoted now in towards a podcast myself, which obviously is different from fun, short, snappy reels. It's deep intellectual conversations, and it attracts a different audience that needs a much better attention span.
It does. And you know what's interesting? I have a client that lives in Spain, and we've kind of gone through that too, where she built a few Instagram pages and she sells designer bags. And so a crazy story with hers is that she had like 30,000 followers. I mean, built these things up multiple times and then had her accounts frozen and then she had to turn around and build it again. So I think it's interesting when I see these accounts, that are able to, and she just has a gift for building those accounts up. But the funny thing is she's got one now, but she moves them all off and puts them into a private like Telegram page now and kind of deals with it on a different basis. But it's interesting. And to your point about the content, and I saw your YouTube video where you were making kind of a shift in what you were trying to do. And I'm with you on that, because when you start getting into the intellectual, it drives in a different type of audience. And that is always kind of what I've said about the work that I do. I've had times where I put things up and then I'm drawing people in because of a picture or something that I'm doing. And then I realize, no, I want you to be liking my content, like what I'm putting out, because I'm putting thought provoking material out there, like I want you thinking, not looking at pictures, So, yeah, you get into that fine line where you're trying to build your audience and trying to build your following. But then you also want to make sure you're grabbing the right people that really want what you have to value and put out there, right?
Exactly. You do have to choose, and it's a fine line between putting things out there that are going to get clicks and going to get views versus putting things out there that you are completely proud of. Because I don't think that the two often become mutually beneficial. Often you need to put a slightly clickbaity title or a thumbnail that's dramatic to get people there to listen to the material in the first place. And Stephen Bartlett talks about that. The Diary of a CEO is one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and always it's got a clickbait title and a dramatic beginning and a dramatic edit for it as well. And it's what you've got to do to get people there. So for me, it's towing that fine line between putting out there what will keep people interested and putting out there what makes me happy and proud of what I do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I do all my own content when I put it out. I have an editor that helps me, but I pretty much come up with the titles and the description and it's crazy because I have programs that basically will go in and give you like title suggestions and stuff. But then I will wrestle with it because I'll be like, is this a clickbait? Is this the message I'm trying to put out there? Like, I'm just too honest. I'm too authentic with my stuff, and you either like it or you don't. That's the way I roll. And so I have a very tough time just throwing things out there that don't really align with who I am. And so even when I'm doing like my shorts and reels, like I'm like, hey, we got a cool title here, but then I'm like, like I wrestle with it a lot. So I'm saying all that to say I don't know how you feel about totally, but I can understand and resonate with what you're saying on that level because it is something that I work with. And even if I get somebody to help me with that stuff, I would have to be like, listen, if you're putting that stuff out and it ain't in aligning with who I am as an individual, no, we ain't going down that road. Sorry,
It's the right way to be because you can't buy your reputation back once you've tarnished it. So yeah, it's important to be true and genuine in everything that you put out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're doing good stuff. So I love this. You've got this course coming out. Tell us a little bit. I know you don't want to spill all that. When's this going to be coming out? What should what should people be anticipating?
Sure. So it's coming out in October, and it's starting with the financial fundamentals, which is compound interest, inflation, how to actually start investing. It's got tools in there to help people budget. It'll let them know how much they need to save for retirement and achieving financial freedom at whatever age that might be possible for them. Debt calculators, just a bunch of tools that people need to just cover off holistically the financial fundamentals. And then it will show the practical application on how they can start investing their own funds, the best way to do it based on their circumstances and attitude to risk, and really just simplifying it, removing the jargon that the industry is drowning in and just trying to make it simple and accessible for everyone.
Yeah, and I'm impressed. Building course is not easy. I'm working with I may have told you this. I'm in a mastermind group right now. I've had mentors, golly, since I was in the Mary. I think I told you Mary Kay for 20 something years. So I've had mentors I started when I was in my late 20s, and so I've had mentors like my entire entrepreneurial journey. There's been very few times where I've had little gaps, where somebody wasn't influencing in my life, but I'm in a mentorship right now, a mastermind program, and I've already built a course that was a beast, and then I didn't know how to market it because it was so deep, like really deep. I worked with this mentor. I think he's from Scotland, but I worked with him for 2 years. His mother was a psychologist, and so it's got a lot of just deep stuff in it. But then I was like, I built this thing out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's really good. And then I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to market it. So then I got in this mastermind, and she's like, I want you to put that down for now. And I want you to backpedal. And I am so used to, I'm a creator. So I get an idea and I just go to work. I come up with something. I'm like, I'm going to go to work. I haven't even engineered it out. I don't even know how to tell you how any of it's going to go together. I'm terrible at outlines. I just come up with ideas. I'm like the person that is an idea generator. I'll get you started on something. But then all the middle stuff, like I need an engineer to come in and start outlining all the middle. So she had me put this down and now backpedal. So I'm having to go back and create this entire 7-figure offer suite. And I'm like, oh, this is so hard because I just want to create the program and I just want to talk about it and I want to sell it. And so I'm having to take that big thing, put it on the side, and then create these little mini things that work up to this big high ticket that I have already built, ready to go. I just got to get all the pieces up to the high ticket. And so I say all this to say that it is not an easy thing to put those courses together, to do that, right? Because there's all parts of it. You know, some of us are great at the creating part. Some of us are great at the engineering part of it, you know, outlining how it's all going to work, the strategy. We all have gifts and strengths, you know, we also have weaknesses in this. And so it's no easy feat. So I'm impressed, you know, one, that you're putting it together, but also I think even doing on the financial sector, because that's a topic that like I have no, like I know how to balance a checkbook, but up beyond that, yeah. So I'm impressed is what I'm saying.
Thank you. Yeah, it's sadly the truth that just so many people don't know where, and the internet is so full of misinformation, and half of the investing content out there is leading towards Ponzi schemes, or it's a scam, or it's leading people into things like Forex trading, which is just 80% of people that do it end up losing money. It's quite a minefield. So yeah, hopefully this can help with that.
Yeah, I'm excited. When did you say it was coming out again?
It's coming out in October, but yeah, as you were saying, I'm learning it's a lot harder work than I thought it would be. I thought I'd get out at the end of August, then the end of September, but it's definitely going to be out in October.
Oh, good. Well, good. We'll be looking forward to that happening. I'm sure you will make it happen. Sometimes it's just making that decision, right? It's like just keep trotting along, and once you made the decision to get it done, it's just a matter of when, right? Like it's just the matter of when that thing actually comes to fruition. And you know, it's interesting. Every time I've done something like that, when I wrote my book, all of those things, I just sort of had to kind of do that. I didn't have the specific date I thought I was going to have it. It ended up getting pushed a little bit, but it originally arrived. Is what I'm saying. It got to the place it needed to be. It just may have had to move a little bit of time to allow for more work or whatever needed to take place. So we'll be cheering you on for that. It'd be exciting. So I want to talk a little bit, because I know you're big into personal development and fitness, which I think are huge components of our success. I don't think it's just about money. I think it's really everything we do in our lives, right? You mentioned early on about traveling solo and learning to have to meet other people. And I think that's so true, even in, like, we network a lot here. And so one of the things that I always talk about, like, we go network, it's so easy to walk into these places and we'll see the same people over and over, right? And it's great because I have conversations with them. I built relationships with them. I can walk in there and be like, hey, there's so-and-so. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to know 10 or so people at a networking event easily when I go in there. But it's also, on the same token, you can get stuck talking to those same people, right? And you have to, sometimes it's almost better for me to go into a room where there's nobody that I know, so that I'll be forced to go meet new people. So I think all these things you've talked about, you know, traveling solo, the exercise, personal development, all these things are really what sort of develop our character, our strength, our resilience, our mindset, all of these things that go into. So I'm curious to know, you know, how you prioritize, like maybe some of the things you do to prioritize like your well-being and your personal development and those things, because our listeners listening to this, they're like, what do these people do? Like, are they up at like 5 a.m? You know, like I have this crazy whole, I'm up at 5 every day, have my whole workout, drink my tea. I like to read. I like to do my nervous system. And I have all this stuff I do. And when I don't get it done, I'm sort of kind of like, you know? So I'm curious to know like what your routine looks like when you know, where you put your emphasis.
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you. This is my time. Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
I never settled on play, putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day, foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paint Paid on my dues, waited in line, 8, 7.
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/Jennifer Loading. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine, brighter than ever.
So I think the first thing on the priority list has always been the fitness for me. It's something that doesn't need to get in the way of anything else and supplements most other things. So 5 or 6 days a week, at least an hour to 2 hours of exercise, either in the gym or playing some kind of sport. And that keeps me right, because if I don't, then I will start feeling pretty horrendous. I'll start not liking the way I feel and not liking the way that I look in the mirror. And then that weighs on my mind and takes away from everything else. So it's a non-negotiable for me to do that. But it wasn't always that way. For years, probably the best part of 10 years, I had an on and off relationship with the gym and fitness, and I'd let myself get really out of shape and then start playing catch up, trying to fix it all again for the next 6 months. And then I'd have a week off for whatever reason that turned into 6 months off, and rinse and repeat. But now for the last 3 years, I've managed to be consistent in keeping up the fitness, and the priorities then fall down to my clients that I've got, whose wealth I manage. They're next on the list, and I make sure that they're kept and looked after. And then any other time that I have can be spent on building the podcast, building a personal brand, or sourcing new clients as well.
Did you play sports growing up?
I did, not as much as I should have. I got into video games quite a lot as a teenager, and the problem with video games is they're so much more fun than anything else that you end up wasting too much of your life on them. Yeah, so I've been better at it actually as an adult than I was as a kid.
Well, and I just asked that because I think, exercise is one of those things that it seems like when I work with people, it's like one of the things that always comes up when I'm addressing, because a lot of what I do is help people overcome subconscious blocks, like work through the things that are keeping us stuck. And a lot of times exercise will be one of those things that comes up for them. They're like, I want to go to the gym, or I want to do this. And it's almost, the thing I always say is that if we didn't grow up doing that, like I didn't grow up either going to the gym. My mother would work out sometimes and I would go with her to a gym facility, but I didn't grow up working out. And I did play a little bit of sports, but I was more into dance and piano. And when I became an adult, like when I was in my 20s, like I remember like trying to go to a Bally Total Fitness in my 20s. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not going to work out at the freaking gym. That was just not my thing. It really wasn't. Well, I take that back. I started teaching aerobics in my late 20s when I had my daughter. And so that kind of forced me, but I didn't do that necessarily because I was so avid in wanting to be fit. It was more that, hey, I can make money. It's kind of fun. And I got free babysitting. That was kind of my logic at that time. And I was starting to run a business. So it kind of just melded into what I was doing. But for me, when I got diagnosed with this rare nerve condition in 2012, it became a massive crutch for me. Like it became, I shouldn't even say crutch, like a support for me, because it helped me get through the pain. And it wasn't so much that I was trying to like be strong or be like put on all this muscle or trying to be fit. It was more to help me get through the pain every day of what I was going through. And then it sort of just evolved into a habit. So like you're talking right now where you spend your 1 to 2 hours, X number of days a week. For me, it's sort of a non-negotiable now because I know how valuable it was for me when I was going through that crisis. That I've, like you, I'm almost afraid not to, because I get worried about my mental state. Like I really worry about, like, if I don't exercise, I'm not going to be a happy person, and I know that's not all of it, but for me, it's a big part of who I am as an individual.
100%. I think we're so adaptable. And as you say, it's easier if you're grown up and you're taught this stuff by your parents and those habits are formed while your brain is a bit more plastic. But once you're an adult, you put yourself through anything in a routine for 3 months, it's going to become something that you feel bad without rather than feel bad doing. And the gym is one of those things. Eating healthy is one of those things. If you've been eating junk food, and I do this as well, I've just been on a bit of a rebound from a holiday which I dieted down for. So I've just eaten every bit of crap under the sun for the last month. And the first day of eating healthy after that is hard. You've got sugar cravings. You're like, what is this green garbage? Give me something sugary and fatty. But after, yeah, exactly. And you get cravings, but then after a week they subside and then you're back to normal. You eat clean like that for 3 months. And I
Yeah.
remember that in Bali, I dieted for 3 months, and my friends, because we did a photo shoot there, as a reward, they bought me a packet of Cinnabons. And I
Oh
remember
no.
I ate this whole Cinnabon, and I literally felt sick, yeah, like to the point where I felt like I actually had to throw up because my body just got so accustomed to healthy, nutritious food that it was like, what is this that you're putting in me? But now, obviously, you get over that, and then I got back into eating junk food. So just build the habits, keep them going, and then there'll be something that makes you feel better rather than makes you feel worse.
Yeah, I agree. And I think so much of that is the work, like what I do is really just reducing the emotional tie to whatever it is that you're doing that's the bad habit, right? Because we're going to do naturally what's comfortable for us in all areas of our lives. And that's why people smoke, because they'll know the habit's bad, but they do it because it's a comfortable thing, right? We know eating junk food's bad, but we do it because it's a comfort thing. It's what we, especially if that's what we grew up on. Like I tell people, I was a microwave child. Like we were all into activities as kids, and my parents were both working. So we were living in the microwave and in the fast food lane and at restaurants. And I really, when I had kids, had to reprogram myself because I was used to just being out all the time and eating that crappy food all the time. And then it caught up with me. And now I'm almost like a carnivore. Like I eat lots of meat, just lots of meat. And I will tell you, there is something comforting and easy about just throwing meat in a skillet and being over with it. Like I don't have to think about food. I don't get the cravings hard. I don't worry about sugar fix. I don't like I'm fine. I feel good. And here's the funny thing, because sometimes I want to get into something and I might eat a little more carbs. I say a little, it's not much because I'm still not eating a lot, but I might eat a little bit more than on a day where I'm almost down to like, 10 and below. And I feel like dog crap. Like I just don't feel very well. And it usually hits like the next day. I get up and my joints hurt. I go to try to run and I'm like breathing heavy, like I'm dying doing 2 miles, around the block. I mean, it gets to a place where it almost doesn't even become worth it anymore. Like you're just better off sticking with your good habits. And if you need to take a break and pause and have the cookie or take the break, whatever, do what you need to do, but don't be a glutton, right? Like just don't adopt that lifestyle.
Exactly, everything is healthy and balanced. But then, as we were saying earlier, sometimes when you are a glutton, and that's what happened for me, I went to the shop, bought armfuls of junk food, scoffed the lot, and that was taking me below region beta, right? That was hitting the rock bottom and bouncing up from it. So as long as you learn from it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's okay. We gotta all be there. I'm not gonna say I've been, like I said, I wasn't always a. People think it's funny. I have conversations with people now, and they think like I woke up being healthy and woke up being kind of a, like the person who's like, don't eat that, do this, don't do that. Like, no, 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 no. Like I had to get sick and I had to have all these things happen, and these are gradual shifts we do over time. It's not a you wake up one day and you're all of a sudden here. You have these little shifts that you do, kind of like this journey you're talking about where you went traveling and then you had these moments and then it brought you to something else. That's how life is. It's really just a journey of all these lessons that you compile together and you adapt each time you have this negative situation.
And the small decisions compound, right? So if you're making good decisions, like loads of little small ones, before you know it, you'll be one of those people. And we're very rigid in our perception of ourselves. We think I am this or I am not that. People say I am not a morning person. I don't
Right.
like the gym. And you make these small decisions that compound, and you're very plastic. You can turn yourself into whatever you want to be. And yeah, just making those small decisions will add up. And conversely, making the bad decisions can compound as well. So it's your choice. And I think that, as a friend reminded me fairly recently of that phrase when I was pigging out, it's the small decisions compound. And I think that now when I've got a little bit of a dilemma about what to do, and it does help you make good decisions and feel better about yourself as well.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you mentioned the morning thing. Um, there is a book out there by the sleep doctor called The Power of When, When, and he talks about there's a lot of science stuff in it, so it can get very boring, but there's a lot of good stuff in it too that you can pick up on. And he talks about like circadian rhythm, and he talks about how we all are really these four animals. You're either a lion, a wolf, a bear, or a dolphin. And based on our circadian rhythm, we do certain things or we thrive doing certain things at certain times. But I think it's interesting because he also talks about how we can change a little bit. And the reason I say this is because obviously for many, many years, and I'm bringing this up because you mentioned about how we said I'm not a morning person. For many, many years, I told myself I wasn't a morning person. And even when my kids were really little, like I'd get up and I'd be like, oh, and I'd go back to bed after they'd leave. And maybe 10 in the morning, I had a business and I was still doing this. I'd kind of try to roll around. I was forced to get up because they were up. But interestingly, when I started making all these shifts, somewhere around 2015, 16, everything shifted. The way I was eating, my exercise, I started getting up in the morning. So now I'm up at 5 every single day. I love being up early in the morning. I get so much done. That's when my brain is probably the clearest. My ideas come to me. And it's funny because even on the weekends, I'm stupid. I will set my alarm clock till 6 a.m. because I think I'm going to just set it like 1 hour later just to see if I can sleep in till 6. I seldom ever make it till 6 a.m. I just wake up and I'll be like, what time is it? It's like 5:18. Like I cannot sleep in unless I just go to bed at like 3 in the morning, which is probably not going to happen. But it's funny because that book, he talks about all this and it's interesting how we can change if we decide we want to change, right? And maybe, like I was always a morning person. And for a while there, for whatever, I kept telling myself I was a nighttime because my habits were so bad. You know what I mean? Like I just wasn't going to bed on time, wasn't forcing myself to get up, wasn't eating right, doing all these things. And then when I started getting in alignment, then I really came back to biologically the way I'm supposed to be operating.
You did. I would say as well, though, you could go back if you wanted to. If something came up that you were having your best hours for business between midnight and 2 a.m., you could then shift and become a night owl again just by making those changes. Your circadian rhythm, you dictate that. You dictate what time you get up in the morning and get sunlight in your eyes. Yeah.
I'd be a devil though. I'll tell you, because I'm like at night, man. I don't know about you, but like after about 7 o'clock, I sort of just want to be a vegetable. I just like, no serious talk. I'm not signing contracts. Don't want to talk business. I just want to be like free spirited and like, that's where we're at that time of night. I ain't going to be sitting over dinner talking contracts with people. Be like, you got to call me at like 5 in the morning. We'd be good,
Yeah,
So
exactly. My mum loves to tell the stories of when I was a teenager and how she'd have to drag me out of bed at midday to get lunch. And now, I'm wouldn't say 5 a.m. club at the moment, probably closer to 6, but I'm useless. And friends want to go out and drink. I'm like, okay, I'll come until 9 o'clock and then I've got to go home. And even if they persuade me to stay out, I'm no fun to anyone because you built this tolerance and this dependence for having your routine, and it makes your life better having it in it. But then conversely, you're useless when you do have to stay up late.
Yeah, no, I get it. So in all of this, what I would love to know, and in everything that you've done, because I think this is kind of the round out of who we are as individuals, and I like this question. I would love to know, I think you've said it in everything that you've said here, but I just want to hear some specific words from you. What do you feel like you've learned about yourself in this journey so far, where you're at?
Oh, so much. So much. I think one of the biggest things is just how we remain plastic and we can become whatever we want to be. And I was talking to someone earlier who said to me about stealing inspiration from people or stealing belief from people. Because even up until this year, I had sort of preconceptions about the sort of life that I deserved and would be able to create for myself and what I wouldn't. But there are other people that are already living the life that you wanted, right? And they are just normal people. And if you study them, if you are lucky enough to spend time with them, steal some of their belief that that's possible and add that to your own life as well. And even though the company that I've been working with out here hasn't worked out, I met a lot of multi-millionaire business people that were doing all kinds of crazy things in the business and the finance world, which I hadn't been exposed to before. And it's changed my mindset on what's possible as well. So yeah, definitely adapted, and I'm currently at the stage in my life where I've just turned 30 and I thought, whatever I choose to do, if I go hard enough at it and I put the work in, then I can make that happen.
Yeah. And you said some good things because I think, even with you doing your podcast now, you're going to continue, because I know you just started that. We talked about that. You're going to meet so many incredible people in that too. And you're already in the wealth, world. You've met some incredible people. But I will tell you, it's such an interesting thing, because I think somebody asked me, one day about like how, because obviously I've talked to a lot of people. I have interviewed over 350 people on between the podcasts that I've done. I talk to a lot of people, and I have no problem talking to people. And, there was a time in my life where I was really, really shy. And even when I started out my podcast, I used to get intimidated by the people that would come on the show. And I still occasionally, there will be somebody come on. I'll be, oh my gosh, I got this awesome person, that's coming on here, and I'm freaking out because it's like somebody that I probably would have never met. But I think that's what's so beautiful about this journey, is all the lives that you come across, because in that journey, you meet some incredible people that have walked in places before you. They add value. And I think no matter where they come from, there's something that they add to your life. They bring something in. You may have never met them had you not been in the journey that you're on right now. You may have never crossed paths with them, and they've imparted something in your world. And so it's interesting, like when I'm talking to people out and about, I'll be like, hey, I had this person on my show, because I'll hear a story and I'll be like, you remind me of this person that came on my show, and da 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 da. So it's not uncommon. You heard me tell a story at the beginning of this. It's not uncommon for me to talk about the guests that have been on my show and the stories, because I've met so many incredible people, and they've all have had a part in my journey. They've taught me valuable skills. They've taught me how to have conversation, how to be relational, how to listen and understand and pick up on context, and so there's so much that can come from that. So I love that you were saying all that, because I think it's priceless opportunities.
Fully agree. And there's another friend of mine said to me recently, your network is your net worth. So putting yourself out there, meeting new people, and seeing which social circles you fit in and which ones you don't, because you're not going to fit into all of them. And finding your people will tell you a lot about who you are as well.
So any more traveling? Anywhere else you got kind of on the burner out there that you want to go check out?
There is, yes. After finishing with the company in Malaysia, I'm now going to have to leave Malaysia and move somewhere else. So I'm going to be spending some time in Indonesia, in Bali. I'm going to head back to the UK, visit some family for a few months, and then head out to Bali at the end of this year.
How exciting. This is so much fun. So my client in Spain, I love it. She travels like this. She spent a month in India. She's like 27, 28. She's about the same age as my daughter. She's just originally from Russia. They moved to Spain, and she cracks me up because she'll just decide, like, I feel like here we plan so hard. It's like somebody I know here is like doing this trip to Greece, and I'm like, this sounds so fun. And I'm thinking, man, I gotta like think about this. Like, I gotta plan this and think about it. And she will just decide. She's like, well, I'm gonna go on a holiday in a few weeks. I decided I'm gonna go to India for a month. And I'm like, you just thought that up and decided you're gonna go to India for a month? And she's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go, or she'll decide to go to London or like she just, and that's how she travels. And so then I was telling her how my daughter, my middle, and I may have shared this with you, she went to Europe for 3.5 weeks. She planned this thing out. Like, they saved up their money. She did go with another friend, and they kind of went sort of backpacking. I mean, they didn't have anything planned. They aligned all their Airbnbs up on the travel. So it was they had a flight going into Ireland, didn't know where they were going to stay, got a room when they were there. Then they flew into Germany, and then drove the train and just planned their trip, ended up in Sweden, Switzerland, Paris, and then back in Amsterdam, and flew home from there. But it was like a planned out, months in advance kind of thing. But then when they got there, they just free spirited the whole trip. So I think it's awesome. Like, I would be having to think this through, plan all this out, really, how much more time am I going to take on work? I get my animals planned, my life, organized. And I love when people can just be like, I'm just going to go on a trip. I'm going on a holiday.
There are two different kinds of people, right? As you say, the ones that plan everything out, and the ones that are like, no, let's just find a hotel when we get there. And usually they marry each other.
Yeah. Maybe so. Yeah, I don't know who my daughter. Yeah, my daughter may be able to. She's my middle child, so she's the one that can kind of do that. It's just free spirit out. Like when she went, I had her on. It's funny because I don't really when she was in college. She took me off her tracker because she didn't want me finding her. Right. Well, then when she was traveling, I was like, you need to put your tracker on because I need to at least know where you are. So I had her on the tracker, and it was actually kind of fun because it wasn't so much that I was trying to see her every move, but it was fun to track like where she was going on the map because I could see, like when she left Ireland and got into Germany and then went down to Switzerland and stuff. And so, but it was an experience for her, and I'm glad she was able to. She said she would definitely do it again.
And it sounds like you lived a little bit vicariously through her as well.
Yeah, a little bit. So it's good. Okay, well, this has been so much fun. I know we could talk forever. You've got such a fun existence. I think it's awesome that you're being able to take this journey that you're taking. And I think, keep doing your thing. I mean, I think that's what this is. It's all about evolving and growing and paving our way, right? And if you can have influence, impact, that's even cooler.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I think what you're doing with the podcast is great as well. Thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. So one last question before I wrap up. If our audience wants to find you, they want to get in touch with you, maybe they want to keep up with your journey, they want to get the course, I don't know, maybe they need you for wealth management, whatever, where would you like us to send them?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is Tom G Murr, MURR. And the podcast is called Growth Game. It's available on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music.
Awesome. Perfect. We'll make sure too, when this gets out, that we get you tagged in all the right places too, so people know how to connect with you.
Beautiful. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been fun. All right. And to our audience, of course, we appreciate you. And if you found this episode inspiring and informative, which we hope that you did, because we always have fun on here, then be sure you head on over to any of the platforms, give us a like, subscribe, comment, whatever you need to do there. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.